My great-aunt left her mansion to whoever could solve the riddle in her will, and the answer destroyed our family. Aunt Margaret was the mysterious rich one who lived alone in that massive Victorian house on Elm Street. She never married, never had kids, and spent her days collecting hundreds of antique music boxes. Every family gathering, she'd sit in the corner winding them up, listening to their tiny melodies while the rest of us made small talk. When she died at 89, suddenly everyone remembered how much they loved dear Margaret. The funeral was packed with relatives I hadn't seen in decades, all wearing their most respectful black outfits while their eyes practically sparkled with dollar signs. Her lawyer called a meeting at his downtown office. 43 relatives crammed into that stuffy conference room like sardines. Cousins who'd been feuding for years sat elbow to elbow, united by greed. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. Margaret's entire estate, valued at $4.2 million, goes to whoever can solve this riddle. Find what I treasured most. It's hidden where the music never stops playing. The room erupted. Everyone started whispering strategies, forming alliances, plotting their search methods. Within hours, that mansion looked like a crime scene. Dad brought a sledgehammer and demolished Margaret's music room wall by wall, convinced she'd hidden a safe behind the plaster. Mom systematically dismantled every single music box with a screwdriver, checking for secret compartments filled with bearer bonds or jewelry. Cousin Jake hired a metal detector guy and spent 2 days digging up a rose garden. Aunt Linda crawled through the attic with a flashlight, pulling up floorboards. Uncle Pete even brought a jackhammer to check under the basement concrete. I was 17 and mostly just following my Uncle Rick around, carrying his toolbox while he checked every possible hiding spot. We'd been searching for 3 days straight when I heard something weird coming from the basement corner. Faint music, like a music box playing somewhere behind the walls. Uncle Rick, listen, I whispered. We pressed our ears against the old wooden paneling. The melody was definitely coming from inside the wall. Rick grabbed his crowbar and started prying at the panels. Behind the false wall was a tiny hidden room, maybe 4 feet by 6 feet, barely big enough to stand in. Inside sat a single music box on a small wooden table, its melody playing on an endless loop. Next to it was a hospital bracelet, a pair of tiny blue baby shoes, and a yellowed envelope. My hands were shaking as I opened the letter. Margaret's handwriting, dated March 20th, 1962. My dearest Thomas, born March 15th, 1962. They made me give you up when I was 16. Said it would ruin the family name. I was allowed to hold you for 3 days in the hospital before the adoption agency took you away. This music box laid in your hospital room. The only lullaby you ever heard from your real mother. I've wound it every single day for 60 years, keeping the music alive for the son I never got to raise. I hope someday you'll forgive me for not being brave enough to fight for you. I stared at the hospital bracelet. Baby Thomas Wilson, born March 15th, 1962. My dad's name is Thomas Wilson. His birthday is March 15th, 1962. The room started spinning. My dad, who'd been adopted as a baby and never knew his birth parents, was standing 20 feet away in the basement, sledgehammering walls looking for Margaret's treasure. I called him over with a voice that barely worked. When he saw the letter, the baby shoes, heard that music box melody, his face went completely white. She's been watching me my whole life, he whispered. Every family gathering, every holiday. She knew. That's when it all clicked. Margaret never married because she spent 60 years mourning the child she lost. She collected music boxes because they reminded her of those 3 precious days with her son. She came to every family event not as the weird aunt, but as a mother desperately staying connected to her child. When the family found out that my dad, the outsider who'd married into the family, was actually Margaret's biological son and sole heir to $4.2 million, 30 years of buried resentments exploded. Cousins who'd called him not real family behind his back were suddenly kissing up to him. Others accused him of somehow knowing and manipulating Margaret. Uncle Pete actually threw a punch, screaming that Dad had stolen their inheritance through deception. The family split into warring factions. Half demanded Dad share the money equally since he'd only found out by accident. The other half supported him but expected generous loans and gifts. Holiday gatherings became battlefields of passive-aggressive comments and guilt trips. But the worst part was watching my dad realize that his birth mother had been right there all along, loving him from a distance, and he'd never known until it was too late to have a real relationship with her. Margaret's greatest treasure wasn't money or antiques. It was the son she'd been secretly protecting and providing for his entire life, leaving him everything because a mother's love never dies, even when families try to bury it.